Thank you, Mr. Coelho. And now to start our presentations at the fourth CBP, we have Thais Vojvodic, who's a member of the New Plastics Economy Global Initiative at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. She'll be talking about the circular economy of plastics from the perspective of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Over to you, Thais. Good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm going to be talking about the circular economy of plastics. I work for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and I'm based in England. I've been here a year now, and I'm going to talk about the advances of circular economy. This is not a new topic. And I'm going to talk about some of the challenges, some of the recent data on this topic to inspire the Congress and the talks we'll be having all day. To those of you who don't know, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, it was founded in 2010, and it's a not-for-profit organization established in England. It operates across the world with companies, government agencies, the third sector, universities, and its mission is to fundamentally change from a linear logic to a circular economy. And it goes well beyond plastics. The idea of this transition to a new economy has to do with understanding that even though circular economy is a well-publicized topic, everybody talks about it, but our economy is predominantly linear. And that's been happening over the last few decades. This transition doesn't happen overnight because it's not incremental. It's a systemic change. And the basis for understanding that means understanding that the way we explore resources currently and our consumer model is an economy of waste. The way society explores natural resources, produces consumer goods, uses them and disposes of them, leads to huge waste of different kinds of material and explores natural resources as if they were infinite. And as we know, they're not, they're finite. Projections for 2050 are that we'll have over 10 billion people in the world. So continuing with this unsustainable linear model, it's not sustainable because natural resources will end and there will be an environmental collapse. It's not a sustainable solution. It will not lead to a circular future. So our challenge is to go through a transition, not only in terms of circular economy for plastics, but it's a change in mindset of how we use, produce, and dispose of everything. Circular economy is based on three principles: eliminating waste and pollution from the start, so how material products and packaging are conceived and how those who design it can eliminate waste from conception, right from their design. The second principle is to keep products and materials in use. So starting with circular design, what are the mechanisms we need in place to make sure these materials remain in use and don't end up in the environment? And the third pillar is regenerating natural systems. So how can we make sure we're extracting materials in a regenerative way? And that's all part of the circular economy way of thinking. As I said, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation mission goes well beyond plastics. It's a big idea. It is an economic transition concept as a whole. And we have some initiatives, such as the new plastics economy. I'm sure many of you have heard of it, and I work specifically on this initiative. Its main tenet is that plastic packaging has many benefits. It's undeniable that modern society needs plastics in huge amounts for many different purposes, to protect food. So it's very useful in the world we live in. But we also know, based on different studies, as we heard in the previous presentation, in 2016, it became evident that plastics were very linear through a research conducted by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and McKinsey with the World Forum, looking at the plastic that was produced around the world, and not only produced, but where it ended up once it was used and disposed of. So in this case, we're talking specifically about plastic packaging. So 90% of virgin material, the amount of plastics produced and used, and the linear logic that most of that, after a single use, would end up in dumps, landfills, or in the environment itself. And only a small amount of that, 14%, was collected and recycled. And there are even more losses in that. So even though the concept of recycling exists for over 40 years, that chart helped us understand that circularity was not being put into practice. So during the World Economic Forum, this statement became very famous. By 2050, we'll have more plastic in the oceans than we do fish. So this was a snapshot and a projection of what could happen in the future if we continued with a linear system. So from 2016 to 2020, a lot has happened. This became a priority on the agenda of many organizations. There are many movements and important initiatives taking place, but what the Breaking the Plastic Wave study showed in 2020 was that despite all the initiatives, despite the fact that agendas are changing, plastic pollution is overtaking the efforts to contain it. So we need to do more and faster for the circularity of plastics.
The data provided by the study is that if we fail, what they show that until or by 2040, if the trend is the same, the plastic volume in commerce will double, the annual volume of plastic getting into the ocean will triple, and the buildup of plastic in the ocean will quadruple. So this growth or these initiatives show that the curve would decrease only in 7%. So we need to act urgently, boldly, and in coordination to influence the entire value chain and to stem the flow at source, not only collect and recycle materials. This is the end of the chain. We should also focus on everything that can prevent this material from leaking into the environment, from its inception, from its design. The new plastic economy has the potential that no plastic package will be in the environment. If design and production is at the center, at the core of the circular economy, if from the design phase we have a significant number of reusable packaging, items, if we have packaging models, distribution models, collection models, and if all packaging is designed to be recycled, and then with additional collection uh, processes. So all these actions need to be coordinated so that we have a full circular economy. So the new vision of the new plastic economy has three pillars. These elements, they follow a sequence. The first need that needs to be met if you want a circular economy is to design out, in other words, the plastics, types of plastic that we need today, we may not need it. There's lots of non-recyclable plastics that are not needed. They don't need to exist in our economy. So this is element one, to eliminate. Number two, to innovate. Now, some other plastics are needed for the economy to work, and they need to be 100% reusable, recyclable, or compostable. Again, recyclable both in scale and in practice. Okay, we're not talking about theory here. Thirdly, circulation. The plastics that we need and that are reusable or recyclable, they should effectively circulate and then be reused or collected for recycling. So to eliminate, to innovate, and to circulate. This is our mantra to guide any action that takes place in the circular economy for plastics. So a study, this study, Breaking the Plastic Wave, has also a projection. By the way, I invite everyone to read this study, Breaking the Plastic Wave. So in this chart, we have elimination, innovation, and circulation strategies that are complementary and have the potential to change this curve. No solution is a silver bullet. There are many needs that need to be met in these three elements, and then this may lead to a significant decrease in the plastic that ends up in the environment. This is a global view, an overview. In this, the new plastics economy, this initiative, it has three fronts. One of them is called global commitment. That's also a global front with over 500 global organizations. Then there's another initiative in which I work, and this is called Plastics Pact. And I'll explain this later. But this is the pacts of plastics. In other words, this means that this overall view of the economy of plastics will land in a particular country. So from a local level, there can be collaboration to meet these needs. And then there's also, it's underpinned by innovation. There's a whole area of innovation that is fed from these initiatives, global and local initiatives, so that there is increasingly more innovation in the solutions provided. Now, global commitment. It has over 250 companies who have signed up this commitment, which account for 20% of all plastic packaging produced worldwide. This initiative is extremely relevant when we consider who are part of this commitment. The major consumer goods companies have signed the global commitment, in addition to governments, government agencies, and other institutions or organizations that are the third sector, the United Nations. Sorry, I apologize. The United Nations is part of the organizers. So in this case, we are talking about the World Economic Forum, WWF, National Geographic. These are also very relevant organizations worldwide. Now, global commitment. It was it started in 2018. This is when all these companies signed up the global commitment. And as part of this development, all participants and signatories, they go through a transparency process as they progress in this commitment. So the Ellen MacArthur Foundation compiles or gathers all this data and it publishes this data. These are public documents and they gather all progress that has been made, showing how these 250 companies are really comply with the points on the agenda. So we had the snapshot from 2018 and then further snapshots which show its evolution. I believe it's very interesting for you to read some of this report, including some points. So year after year, we see the increase in post-consumer recycled content in plastic packaging. So from one year to the other, there was this growth of 22%, which is considered extremely relevant. And the Ellen MacArthur Foundation believes are on the right track to reach the 2025 target of 25%. Another important thing, there's an increasing number of companies which are transparent in terms of the plastic packaging that is put in the market. So the more transparent you are, the better or the easier it is to find solutions. So there's progress in action taken and also in terms of transparency for 2 years. Now, there are also there's also room for improvement. A lot needs to be done and fast, including the number of reusable packaging, the amount of reusable packaging that is produced by these companies. So the volume of reusable packaging is 1.9% only, and this figure hasn't changed from year to year. This number shows that the situation is highly complex when we consider reusing. And there's many pilot projects going on. We follow up on many tests that are being done, but they need to be replicated and they need to be scalable. Then the number of packaging items that are considered non-recyclable. 36% of them are not recyclable. And this number hasn't changed from year to year. This means there's this great challenge of using packaging that is not reusable in practice and in the right scale. So what the Ellen MacArthur Foundation says is that you need further or more collaboration between all players in the plastic value chain so that this packaging that is not considered recyclable can be addressed. Now, with regard to the global commitment, a global initiative with global corporations signing it and show that they're committed to this goal. There's also the Plastics Pact. These are in national or local initiatives that seek developing a circular economy for plastics in specific geographies. There are currently 11 Plastics Pact. The most recent is the one with Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. That's a regional pact, but there are also pacts in Canada, Chile, French, Holland, Poland, Portugal, South Africa, United Kingdom, the United States, and also a European pact And what these pacts do, they have the same view of the new plastic economy to eliminate, to innovate, and to circulate. But then they adapt this view to their local contexts, adapting these ideas to their reality. I apologize because most of some of these slides are in English, and I got this text from international forums. I believe it's clear enough here that the UK, Chile, and France, they have the same matrix of targets, eliminating problematic or unnecessary packaging, a percentage of plastic packaging that should be recycled. So the matrix is basically the same. What changes is targets 3 and 4, the percentage of effective recyclable packaging depends on each country and their conditions. So every pact is led by a local organizations rather than the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So these are local organizations and they develop with their local stakeholders the numbers, the figures that make sense to their reality. And these numbers change from country to country. Interesting figure to show you is there are currently some pacts like the UK Pact. In this pact, has been implemented for over a year, in fact, for over 2 years in the United Kingdom, and they're collecting data now showing progress being made with regard to these goals. And this is one of the features of this pact to make processes more transparent with annual reports of progress that was made by all the companies that belong to the pact. And a pact is made up uh, of companies that belong to the value chain of plastic, government agencies, and other organizations, third sector organizations. The idea behind the pact is that there's a wide diversity of voices and that action is taken collaboratively. The new information that I will now show is that the Brazilian Pact is being developed. Brazil is now part of the Pact development map. There are 2 additional pacts that are underway. So by the end of the year, we'll have 14 plastics pacts. And we're working with the Avina Foundation to develop the Brazilian Plastics Pact, which will be launched at the end of this year. By the end of my presentation, I'll give you a reminder. Those of you who do not participate in this initiative, if you feel interested, please get in touch with me and I'll forward you to Avina. But I believe that most of you already participate in the process to develop the Brazilian Plastics Pact. In addition to the Global Commitment Initiative and the Plastics Pacts, there is a third pillar, as I mentioned before, and this is innovation. There are many more things that need doing at a greater speed. So the foundation's innovation department develops knowledge systematically that supports the advance of the plastic initiative with a focus on solutions that helps companies and governments to reach their goals. A relevant example here, in fact, I'd like to encourage you to go to our website and to explore our guide called Upstream Innovation Guide, with over 100 examples worldwide of the major innovators in this new area of redesigning packaging distribution systems, making more circular business models. So this guide is not just about packaging. It leads to rethinking the whole process, packaging, products, and business models. So the study provides many inspirational examples for everyone, for companies, innovation departments, supply departments, so that everyone can work together to develop more circular products. If you go to the website, you'll see a huge amount of material that you can explore to generate new upstream innovation ideas. So you will find this complete guide on the website with case studies and also some frameworks that are interesting to look at. You have a slide decks that you can use in your companies, a communication pack that can help in this process. And one more thing I'd like to highlight is they also provide access. The study provides access to a whole package of materials that you can use to hold workshops in your organizations. As a result, innovation can be independent of external stimuli. You can also provide internal material for innovation to take place within organizations. The idea is that these presentations are self-explanatory and that every company department can develop their own workshops. These tools are free and are available on our website. In addition, there are many other publications that are all available on our foundation, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, in many different languages. Some of them are even in Portuguese. So again, if you want to access that information and go deeper and use these resources for your own purposes, there is a lot of material available on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation website. Uh, thank you very much. This is my contact details. So if you're interested to participate in the Plastics Pact in Brazil, talk to me and I'm available for your questions. Thank you. Thank you, Thais. Thais Vojvodic of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So we have some a short Q&A session. We have many questions, by the way. I'll start with Paulo Vilas. So he congratulates you on this great presentation and he asks how the foundation can influence more effectively Brazilian uh, processes and procedures so that we can make the most of the foundation's potential? That's a good question. The foundation is headquartered in the UK, but it has offices in many places in the world, including Brazil. In fact, it's present throughout Latin America. And we are now working on a circular economy Latin America coalition, which includes much more than plastic, the plastic industry. So it engages governments to think about circular economy models throughout Latin America. So we have our offices in Brazil and all the materials that are developed in the new plastics economy, they're being translated into many different languages. The idea is that this content is made available to many different countries. So this is the way we work. The foundation is also present in the United States and China, and as well as Brussels, but it's headquartered in the UK. The foundation team is made up of international members. I work for I'm a part of the global team. So thank you, Paulo. I've known you for a long time. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. We will now continue with Marco's question. He says, people discuss the impact of plastic packaging in the environment, and the pulp and paper industry has eco-friendly solutions for paper packaging. And paper may have a thin plastic layer to make it waterproof. This solution makes recycling more difficult. Would this be a worse solution than plastic alone? This is a great question, and I don't think we have an answer yet. There's no definitive answer. I think it's more on a case-to-case basis that we need to act. Just replacing one material with the other is not the ideal answer. As I said before, we need to think about eliminating, reusing, and also going upstream rather than replacing one sort of material with another. You need to work circularly rather than replacing one problem with the other. There are many debate. There's a lot of debating and discussing about this, about alternative materials. So my answer to you is none of these are the solution. So we need to rethink as what's the third way? Just replacing plastic with paper. It won't solve the problem. It will need a plastic layer anyway, and people might get confused as a result. Is this just paper? And people don't even know that there's this thin plastic film on that paper, and they won't even understand that how that material should be disposed of. So there are many problems. This is a really complex answer, and everyone who works in this transition to the circular economy and other alternatives, we are working on this, and I believe in the near future we will have more studies and publications on this particular topic. Today we don't have this yet. So the alternative we have is, rather than looking for an easy solution, we should explore more innovative models that might generate greater and more effective circularity. Thais, the next question is from Mr. Dessa. On your slide, we see we may have more plastic than 2050. Now, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation document says, quote, could have more plastic than fish, unquote. So this is a statement. Now do we have a translation of the original document? Well, I, the sense of this quote is that it is exactly like this. We don't have a crystal ball. No one can state that there will be more plastic than fish in the future. I mean, this may happen if nothing is done. But the point of this sentence is exactly that. We may have this situation taking place in the future if we don't take action effectively and work fast. I hope I've answered the question. Thank you. In 2016, 14% of the plastics were recycled. Do we have current figures? This is what Roberto Caron is asking. 14%. I don't have a more recent number. The most recent study still mentions 14%. So this is the most recent number. Now, I believe that, and I hope, by the way, that in a newer study, we can see a change of this indicator. What we can see today in some pacts, like for instance in the UK pact, and of course the level in the UK is much higher than the world's average. They started from, and I'm not exactly sure, I need to confirm that, they started from 52, so 54, it's a very high level. It shows a growth trend in the amount of plastic that is collected and recycled in that particular country because they're acting together. There is regional data country by country. And if this number is studied again, we will see an average growth in this number, but have, I don't know any global number that is different from 14%. I just have specific country information. Now, Ricardo Mieta wants to know how you see the behavior of brand owners that prioritize high quality recycled material to produce color and pearly packaging that are difficult to recycle in something that they don't even want. Well, this is a very interesting topic. Those that design products are not those that are designing sustainability or circular economy procedures. So pearly or colored packaging that makes recycling more difficult is a decision that is based on how the product should look. And these resins or this packaging at the end of its shelf life, it will be landfilled or thrown into the environment and it cannot be reused. So it's important that all areas work together so that when products are designed, their recyclability is taken into account. Now, Thais, can you mention any examples of plastics that are not needed to give us an idea? This is a question by Denise de Oliveira. The innovation guide gives many examples. I'll give you one example from the UK. There's a supermarket chain there, and they were considering their own private label products, including canned products, and they all had the plastic shrink around them. So they understood after a series of tests that this was not needed at the points of in the points of sale. So rather than replacing with other material, they just removed that. And their conclusion was that this was possible. So they made this change, which seemed simple, but in fact, when you consider the total amount involved, they got rid of a large amount of plastic. And then there are more innovative cases like Lush. Lush redesigned their products for them to be sold without packaging. So innovate products to innovate packaging too and get rid of them. And there's an interesting chapter on this guide about this topic. Thais, we have one more question. Rodrigo de la Marque can falter when you consider selecting and eliminating problematic plastic. Is there a trend or a reference about those that are more likely to be eliminated because they are harder to recirculate? Okay, so non-recyclable materials. These are seen as problematic and unnecessary. So ideally, which plastics should be eliminated? What should we think? From, well, by 2025, that's our greatest milestone in the new plastics economy. What we encourage companies to understand is that of the plastics that are not recyclable, which for which are there feasible, credible plans for which there will be solutions by 2025, which is a really relevant date. There's a large number of companies doing this. And how do you make that recyclable until then? What are recycling systems that are needed for this recycling to take place in practice and these products become recyclable? Without this prediction, what do you do to eliminate these products? So we have three alternatives: recyclable packaging, non-recyclable packaging, but then there is a clear journey or path to make that recyclable at some point, or there's a third type of packaging that's not recyclable and there's no evidence that they will be recyclable in the next few years. So this category of packaging, they should be eliminated.
A gente quer agradecer muito a tua
Thank you so much for joining us at the fourth Brazilian Plastics Conference, Thais, and I'll see you at 12 o'clock.